Imagine a world where the greatest betrayal in history never took place. No silver coins, no kiss of deception, no arrest in Gethsemane. What if Judas Iscariot had never betrayed Jesus? Would Jesus have still been crucified? Would the course of history have changed forever? Or would Judas himself have suffered an even greater fate? Brace yourself for a chilling journey into an alternate reality where the man destined to betray the Son of God makes a different choice. One that leads to a future darker than anyone could have imagined. The Gospels paint a tragic picture of Judas Iscariot. He was one of the 12 chosen disciples, a man who walked with Jesus, witnessed his miracles, and yet he sold him for 30 pieces of silver. Scripture tells us that Satan entered Judas. He conspired with the chief priests, and in the dead of night, he led the soldiers to Gethsemane, where he betrayed Jesus with a kiss. It was a kiss that led to chains, chains that led to trials, trials that led to the cross. Racked with guilt, Judas tried to undo his actions. He threw the silver coins into the temple and, overcome by despair, hanged himself. Jesus was crucified. The prophecy was fulfilled. The world was redeemed through his sacrifice. But what if Judas had never betrayed Jesus? Would Jesus have still been arrested? Would someone else have taken his place? Or would Judas himself have been the one to suffer? Now, let's step into a world where Judas makes a different choice, one that shatters everything we thought we knew. It's the night of the Last Supper. Jesus speaks, his voice calm yet filled with sorrow. One of you will betray me. The disciples exchange nervous glances. Peter tenses. John leans closer to Jesus. But Judas, he already knows. He grips the small bag of silver hidden beneath his robe. The weight of it burns against his skin. Then Jesus locks eyes with him. What you are about to do quickly. The room falls silent. Judas stands. His hands tremble. But instead of rushing to the chief priests, he hesitates. His heart pounds in his chest. The weight of his decision crashes down on him like a tidal wave. Could he really do this? Could he betray the master who had called him, fed him, trusted him? And in that moment, he makes his choice. He runs, but not to the priests. Judas flees into the night, the silver falling from his hands, forgotten. At the temple, the chief priests wait. The Roman guards are ready, but Judas never arrives. Time passes. Whispers spread through Jerusalem. The priests grow impatient. Where is he? They send another man to follow Jesus and his disciples to Gethsemane. And just like before, Jesus is arrested. But this time, Judas is not the betrayer. This time, he is the hunted. The priests are furious. Judas has defied them. They label him a traitor to their cause, a liar, a coward. A price is placed on his head. The man who once sought silver now finds himself worth 30 pieces of his own blood. Judas hides in the shadows, his mind unraveling. He thought that by refusing to betray Jesus, he had done the right thing. But Jesus was still arrested. The trial still happened. The crowd still screamed for crucifixion. Judas watches from a distance as Jesus is beaten, mocked, crowned with thorns. No, this wasn't supposed to happen. His mind twists with regret. He saved himself from being the betrayer. But what had he changed? The plan had unfolded without him. Had he truly done the right thing? Then he sees something that turns his blood to ice. The priests, they are searching for him. Judas runs through the streets of Jerusalem, breathless, desperate. The priests have turned the people against him. To them, he is not just a traitor. He is an enemy of the Sanhedrin. The Romans will not protect him. The disciples will not trust him. He is alone. Then, as he turns a corner, he is caught. Rough hands seize him. Torches light the dark alley. You thought you could betray us, Judas? Asterisk, one of the priests sneers. We gave you a chance to do your part. Now, we'll make sure you suffer for your disobedience. Judas struggles, but it's useless. They drag him through the city like an animal. The people spit at him. They curse his name. And finally, he is thrown into a prison cell. The air is cold. The damp stone walls pressing around him. Judas trembles in the darkness. Somewhere outside, the crowd roars. Crucify him! Crucify him! Judas collapses to his knees. Nothing changed. Jesus is still being condemned. But now, Judas is a dead man too. The priests will never let him go. Perhaps they will crucify him next. Or perhaps they will do something worse. His mind spirals into madness. He should have taken the silver. He should have kissed Jesus in the garden. At least then, his suffering would have been quick. Instead, he had tried to escape destiny. And in doing so, he had condemned himself to something far worse than betrayal. Morning comes. Jesus carries his cross to Golgotha. And in the depths of the prison, Judas shivers, his body weak from hunger, his mind shattered by fear. The guards arrive. But instead of dragging him to his execution, they bring someone else. The cell door creaks open. A bruised and bloodied man is shoved inside. Judas looks up, and his breath catches in his throat, because the man standing before him is Barabbas, the murderer, the insurrectionist, the man who was set free in place of Jesus. And as the guards slam the door shut, sealing Judas and Barabbas inside together, a chilling realization dawns. Judas thought he had escaped his fate, but in the end, he was never meant to betray Jesus. He was meant to die in his place. Judas' story is one of regret, but it also teaches us a powerful lesson. Some choices are unavoidable. Some destinies are written. Judas thought that by refusing to betray Jesus, he could change fate. But in the end, God's plan always unfolds the way it is meant to. Without Judas' betrayal, Jesus still went to cross. But Judas' own actions led him to an even darker fate. This what if scenario teaches us something crucial. You cannot outrun destiny. And sometimes, the very thing we try to avoid is the thing we are meant to face. Would history have been different if Judas had refused to betray Jesus? Or was he simply a piece in a much larger plan? The greatest mystery of all is this. Was Judas truly a villain? Or was he just a man trying and failing to escape the inevitable? Judas and Barabbas sit in the dark prison cell. Outside, the deafening cries of the mob echo through the streets. Crucify him! Crucify him! Judas shudders. His body is weak. He hasn't eaten. He hasn't slept. His mind is unraveling. He turns to Barabbas, whose bloodied face is twisted with smirk. Barabbas says, "Strange, isn't it? I was supposed to be on that cross. And yet, I am here and Jesus is out there." Judas flinches at the name. He can still hear Jesus' words from the Last Supper ringing in his mind. What you're about to do quickly. Had Jesus known all along? Had he foreseen this moment? Outside, the crowd roars again. The sounds of a hammer striking nails pierce the air. Judas gasps. It is happening. Jesus is being crucified, and he is powerless to stop it. His refusal to betray Jesus changed nothing. Or had it changed everything? As the sky darkens over Jerusalem, the city trembles. Judas clutches the cold prison walls, his breath ragged. He can hear the agonized cries from Golgotha. Then, in the distance, he hears it. A voice that shakes the heavens. It is finished. John 19, verse 30. A sudden earthquake shakes the ground beneath him. The very foundations of the prison tremble. Judas falls to his knees. The prison guards rush to stabilize the walls, their faces filled with terror. Somewhere outside, the temple veil is torn in two, Matthew 27, verse 51. The graves of the dead open, and saints rise from their tombs, Matthew 27, verses 52 to 53. The world is changing. Judas grips his chest, struggling to breathe. The weight of what has just happened crushes him. Had he played a role in this? Or had he only doomed himself? As night falls, the guards abandon their posts in fear. Barabbas sees an opportunity. With a sly grin, he nudges Judas. "Well, traitor, it seems the gods smile upon us tonight." With the chaos in the city, the prison doors are left unguarded. Barabbas and Judas escape into the darkened streets. The air is thick with whispers, rumors of the dead rising, of the sky turning black. The city is afraid. Judas stumbles through the alleys, his mind racing. Where could he go? The disciples would never trust him. The priests wanted him dead. The people saw him as a coward. He had no place left in this world. But then, he hears another whisper, one that makes his blood run cold. They say he will return in 3 days. Judas stops in his tracks. 3 days? Had Jesus prophesied this? Had Judas, in his attempt to escape fate, only delayed what was always meant to come? His breath quickens. What if Jesus does return? What if he knows what Judas did? What if his return brings judgment? Judas must know the truth, and there's only one place to find it. He must return to the tomb. 3 days pass. Jerusalem is still. The fear that once gripped the city has turned to unease. Judas watches in the shadows as Roman soldiers guard the tomb. The stone is sealed. The world believes Jesus is gone forever, but Judas knows better. He watches, waits, and then it happens. A blinding light erupts from the tomb. The earth trembles again. Judas shields his eyes as the Roman soldiers collapse in fear. The stone moves, and then a figure steps out. Jesus, alive. Judas gasps. His body shakes with terror. It's true. He has risen. Jesus turns, his gaze piercing the night, and then he looks directly at Judas. Their eyes lock, and in that moment, Judas realizes the horrifying truth. Jesus knew all along, not just about the betrayal, not just about the crucifixion. He knew everything. Tears stream down Judas' face. He falls to his knees. Judas, Master, forgive me. Jesus steps closer. His face is not one of anger, but of sorrow. He kneels before Judas and speaks. Judas, why are you here? The words shake Judas to his core. Why is he here? To beg for forgiveness? To escape his guilt? Or to finally understand his true purpose? Tears fall from his eyes. Judas, because I was afraid. I thought I could change fate. I thought I could escape my role. But now I see I was always meant to be the betrayer. Jesus looks at him with deep sadness. You were meant to be a part of God's plan, but you refuse your place. Judas sobs. Judas, what will happen to me now? Jesus stands and speaks words that will haunt Judas forever. Go and do what is in your heart. The same words he spoke at the Last Supper. Judas' breath catches in his throat. Nothing has changed. Fate has not been avoided. It has only been delayed. He is not the betrayer, but he is still damned. Judas stumbles back. The air around him grows colder. He realizes the truth. His story is not one of redemption. It is one of a man who tried to defy destiny and failed. The weight of his choices crashes upon him. He turns and vanishes into darkness, never to be seen again. Judas' story teaches a haunting lesson. Some fates cannot be avoided. Some roles must be fulfilled. Judas thought he could escape his destiny, but in the end, he only delayed what was always meant to be. Had he accepted his role, would he have found redemption? Or was he always destined to be the lost soul, the one who walked with the Son of God, yet never truly knew him? Perhaps the greatest tragedy of Judas was not his betrayal, but the fact that he never understood his place in God's plan, and because of that, he was lost forever. Did Judas' refusal to betray Jesus change anything? Or was he always meant to be a part of a prophecy that could not be broken? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And remember, some stories are darker than they appear.